and Touch Radio or its staff.
All right, good morning. Good morning. Listen, if you can hear the sound of my voice, it is indeed another good morning. I want to welcome you to Straight Up the Middle on Intex News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. Last week I kicked off the show with a little bit of a educational lesson on what straight up the middle really means. Because in my book, it means take this thing as far to the left as I can, and then I rely on my Republican and conservative buddies to pull back as hard as they can. And guess what, everybody? If we do that, we end up in the middle. And to make that happen this morning, I want to welcome to the show this morning co-host none other than Sweet Pete Edwards. Good morning, Pete. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, my brother, but I may have to change that title because I don't think people like sweetness anymore in any kind of situation. But it is what it is. It's a funny thing about life. Um, Sometimes we're in a season that's actually for our healthy benefit, and we don't recognize it until we run from it or we get kicked out of it. But everything about life is a season. So when it's recognizable, even though it may be a painful lesson, that season will help you be healthier in the long run. That's my take on that. But it is a season for everything. So I know you got a lot to get going on, my brother. So I'm gonna shoot some holes in your theories later on. But we
Know if I would say you shoot holes, but Pete, sometimes you blow them straight out of the water. But that's what this show is all about. And I just wish that more people would be open to engaging in a constructive dialogue from different perspectives. We're all on the same side of every issue. You're going to miss things that would be more beneficial to driving that message forward. So I think it's important that we have discussions where they are with people who are different than us, see them differently, come from different backgrounds, and that we not be afraid of that, and we be courageous enough to see when we are wrong or we miss something or we need to change our position on an issue. So I love our discussion, and I'm encouraged by the fact that every week we both can gather at this point in time and engage like we do. We missed you last week. I had on uh, in your place the other co-host, Professor Tony Seabrook. He did a valiant effort in your stead. But it's glad to have you back on the show this morning,
Oh
Pete.
yeah, graduations are over. A lot of stuff, I want to remind the parents, please, please, and those of you who drive recklessly, the kids are back in all kind of summer camps, summer programs. Some of the schools are having extended summer session. There's no need to be driving up and down the road, speeding and all of that, passing school bus still. And I mean, we have to. There's so many things we have to do to respect those who we're trying to put in a position to take our place. But I saw some stuff during the week. I'm like, why would you speed 70 miles an hour in a church zone where the kids are outside playing? That doesn't, and it's our kids. So but there's always work to do. It's always work to do.
You bring up a key point, and this drills down to something that I call personal responsibility. Pete, as you know, I have the pleasure right now serving on the East Tampa Community Revitalization Act Citizens Advisory Committee, which gives advice to the CRA on how it should spend tax funds to improve and remove blight in East Tampa. These are all over the country. It's nothing unusual about the one that we're involved in with in the Tampa area where we're based. But that program repeatedly bumps into something what I call personal responsibility. You like that, I'm sure, Pete, because I know the Republicans, it used to be one of your platform items about, the driving personal responsibility. I don't know if that's still in
It
there after
still
Trump.
is. That's
Yeah.
first and foremost. You have a responsibility. You can't be a team player until you recognize that you have a personal responsibility to shape up your own foundation so you can contribute something positive and long standing, whether people say thanks, kiss your butt, or whatever the case may be. Your goal in a community is first establish a foundation so that you can offer something to the community, and those who are coming behind you, whether they're in their family or not, to enhance your community and make it stronger and better. And as you know, I've said over and over again, I don't care if the kids coming behind me take after Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or whatever the case may be, as long as it rebuilds our community where it's a safe community, it's an educated community, it's a booming community. And so you have to start, when you work in a community, take yourself out of it and look at the sum total of all the parts that's going to make it better as you transition from the present to the past, and as the kids go from the present to the future. That's the way I've always looked at that. That's the way I was trained to look at that, not by formal educators, but just by hood people like myself, neighborhood people.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, you just did a whole show right there, but I'm gonna try to keep this thing going and add a little nugget or two. Okay, so okay, got a couple of things on the plate, and I normally don't do this, Pete, but I'm gonna give you some softballs. You know, kind of get your rhythm back up because you were out last week. Only fair. I get you. So the first one is let's talk a little bit about Kamala Harris. And I'm gonna let me map this out for you, and then you can tell me what you think. If I recall correctly, Kamala Harris announced she was running for president out in San Francisco. They shut down half the city. 500,000 people showed up. It was going to be the next thing since sliced bread, or rather since Obama declared his presidency. Then she had that breakout moment during the debates where she put old Joe Biden in his place because of what he did with school busing and his willingness to work with segregationists back over his 50, 80, 90, 100 years in the Senate, Washington. And then all of us, she just fizzled out. Mm-hmm. The more people got to know her during that campaign, Pete, her campaign went down, and fizzled out. And ultimately, though, Joe Biden, after getting the nomination, recognized, she might be the best pick if I'm going to win. I attribute a lot of that to recognizing he was losing until African Americans in South Carolina on Super Tuesday came in and saved his butt. He was a dead duck. And he realized, well, maybe I need to have an African American on the ticket. He picks Kamala Harris. A lot of reasons. People wonder why he picked her, but he picked her and off they go. But I don't know that since he's picked her, she's revealed to us she is ready and able to handle the big stage. And the one is, every one of her interviews, she has these awkward moments where she's giggling, or it's a nervous laugh, or it's bad sarcastic humor that nobody really appreciates, and it just kind of doesn't look like there's a lot of compassion and personality behind what her image projects. And now we get fast forward to people saying, well, what's her portfolio going to be? What's she going to do? And demanding she has something significant. I thought it was a bad idea to give her immigration, because that's been something that some people have really struggled to get a handle on for multiple presidencies, but she got it. And she goes off to visit Central America, Pete, and it's just a nightmare. There was one question I thought she was going to get, and I hope you heard it, her answer. The one question was, well, when are you going to the United States-Mexico border? And she stumbled around, giggling, laughing. It was like one of the worst answers that she talked about. She tried to say we've already been, and it just was horrible. And my question to you is, was she set up to fail by giving her immigration and sending her to Central America? And is she flopping as a vice presidential, as the vice president? That's where we end up. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna say it right now. If we, the black community, expect her to be the first black female president, it won't ever happen. It's not gonna happen. No, she wasn't set up for failure. What she is she's an aloof, snooty, African American educated woman. That's
Whoa,
what
whoa,
she
whoa!
is.
Say that again. Wait. Hit that again. I need to make some notes here. What was that? She's a what now?
She's aloof and snooty African American woman that can't
Man,
relate. She cannot
people
relate.
clutching, speak,
Listen
speak.
to me now.
People, some
I'm gonna tell
people
you
clutching
why.
their pearls. You got over a couple 100,000 ladies this morning are grabbing their pearls right now, shaking their head
She's
that you would
fake.
say that
She's
about
fake.
Kamala.
She's aloof. I watched that Lester Holt interview 2 or 3 times. I watched her during the campaign. And what I found out as she was campaigning, the reason why her campaign went down here, she's trying to relate to middle class and lower income folks, and she don't have it in her to do that. So she got a pass because she was a black woman and Biden needed her, but the black people was tired of Trump, so they say, okay, let's put the sister in there to get Trump out of the way, which was fine if that because I would have, I would have done the same thing. But when you watch her and her aloofness and everything, she can't relate to the average blue collar African American family. She can't even relate to, in my opinion, African American families that have both formally educated components of their family and blue collar components of their family. And when you watch her laughter and all like that on Lester Holt when that question was asked, that is who she is. She just can't handle being with the masses of regular people. I don't know why people don't see that. I saw it early in the beginning. She's extremely different from Stacey Abrams, and a few other people, but it's because of her aloofness, and so she wasn't set up. Because here's the thing: when black people in a position like her, or even Obama, or whatever the case may be, and they get in those positions, what you have to understand going in before you formally put in that position, that there's always going to be set up attempts around you. So you have to go in with a militant thought process that I'm going to have a 360-degree angle on everybody, every issue, trust but verify, and then I'll be ready to fight. As the old timers say, I'll be ready to put on the full armor of God and then some. But when you look, I looked at that interview for the third time, and then it hit home to me. This lady, she is who she is, and she's not. She just can't handle it because it means putting in sincere work. If you look at her work in the Senate and all like that, it kind of reminds me of a overly dressed fashionista. Now I know some women are gonna say I'm being
Boy, you digging a
chauvinistic or
hole, boy,
whatever,
Pete.
but I call it like it is. I call
You
it like
go
it is.
keep at it. Keep on going. You
So
keep
I'm
going.
just
Go ahead.
saying that if she ran for president, she would not get a high percentage of black male voters to vote for her. And you know what else she's not going to be able to get? She's not going to be able to get middle-class black women who see through the fakeness of somebody who think they're so educated that they can think for you. And I despise women like that. Men, too. See what I'm saying? I tell my sons and grandsons, listen, you can have all the formal education you want, but if you don't have no common sense, if you don't have no street sense, if you don't have no recognition that you ain't got it like you think you got it, and then you look beyond those who have put you in a position to climb on their shoulders to reach the top, then it's all fake. And that when she laughed about going to the border and all, she thought it was funny. She just thought it was funny, but she meant it to be funny and aloof. So I know a lot of the sisters, particularly the ones with the pink and green, not going to like it. But I can never vote for her. She's fake. And it's going to come out more and more and more. So it wasn't a setup for her. And she should have known before she took the vice president job that a first-time black woman in a position like that she was going to face some setups, not from outside the party, but from within the party. All she had to do, Clint, when you talk about black women, if they really study Fannie Lou Hamer, but in Kamala's position, you know who she should have studied? The work and the preparation of all of the late Shirley Chisholm. Then she would have got it. See, that's my thinking of that.
Listen,
well, I'm militant, bro. Just because I'm a Republican don't mean I'm not militant.
If this is, I'm sorry, I can't let you be. You know, just poor Kamala. You throw Fannie Lou Hamer in, and then you box her in on the other side as with Shirley Chisholm. Those are some gigantic shoulders.
Well, don't forget Angela Harris,
Angela Davis.
Angela Davis. She couldn't even put on her stockings. That's her
Man,
mindset. That's their mindset. And so not only do you, I give you a good comparison.
okay.
In one way, she is in the same mental framework as Byron Donald, the Republican, young black Republican that took over for Francis Rooney's seat down in Southwest Florida, Fort Myers. They're saying, hey, the Black Caucus is trying to hold him out. Listen, for what a lot of things that the Black Caucus do that's within their personality struggles with each other, if I was a Republican or a Democrat and I was in Congress, I wouldn't join the Black Caucus either. That's my taking. Go ahead, bro.
Okay. A couple of these things I had to clear up. First, the views and opinions of the co-host here are strictly his. Ladies,
absolutely.
Please let go your pearls. Okay, a couple of things though. And you put that in the context of African Americans, and I would have understood that if we were talking about her other issue in her portfolio, voting rights. But she was dealing with immigration. This is international statesmanship. All you have to do in that situation is stay above the fray. Clearly she had to have been ready for that question. She has to be ready. And that's what got me was the fact that she was not ready for the question, nor in the moment that she could not handle the question. That was my concern. That was my concern. Looking at this is that she just couldn't handle that moment, Pete. That's what worries me about her, because that's just one of them. Because look, the only thing she's going to get thrown at her is what the president doesn't want, and he doesn't want
to
deal with.
Well, I tell you what, you know how she can redeem herself. If I was Biden, guess where I would send her next? To deal with the issues that the Haitian community is having, trying to get temporary cars to come into America. No, she's built to not deal with. I'm gonna put it this way: in observing her and researching her, she's built not to deal with. First of all, people of color who are beneath her income wise and struggling wise. So
hold on. Okay. But she has some really strong bona fides. And let me walk you out just
allegedly bona fides.
I'm gonna give them. Let's say here, she was a Kappa sweetheart back at Howard.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. She was a Kappa sweetheart. She's an AKA at Howard. And she attended an HBCU. Pete, those are some strong credentials for being connected with blackness.
Well, but they're connected with certain divisions. For an example, if you go on the Hampton campus in Hampton, Virginia,
okay,
you can see a distinct divide between women and men of color that are African Americans that are attending Hampton that have a degree of a high income level and all than what you see other students. But if you really want to break it down, you can see the distinct difference in how they communicate with the black community as a whole surrounding Hampton. It's a little different than if you go across the street to Norfolk State. You follow me?
Absolutely. Okay. I think that plays out in our community in general. And I guess, but for me, you have a person like Barack Obama who's able to transcend, I would say, that barrier and make the genuine connection. And that may come from his work in Chicago, in the community and whatnot, or just a re-educating of himself. And I get that she has a little bit of an untraditional African-American upbringing and experience, but you would think that at her level, she would have made that connection. But I just thought, looking at her, I think, they got to keep her away from the press. They got to keep her away from people where it's a compassionate issue. She needs something like economics, the military, or she needs to go somewhere where she doesn't have to show compassion, because whether we really like it, there's an issue on the border. There's a real issue down there, and she has this seems like a lack of ability to connect to it and understand that there are people in this country really, really concerned about it. Now, let me say this also, Pete. For those listening in, you all know Pete and I and all my co, we can talk for a full hour, but we want to give you an opportunity if you'd like to make comments. You can call in. The station number is 813-444-9588. 813-444-9588. Also, if you're listening on intouchnews.com, you can also switch over and take a peek, see at Facebook, at the InTouch News Facebook page, also over on YouTube as well. But we want to give you a chance if you want to participate in our discussion. Now, let's talk about Kamala's boss for a minute. I need you to admit something, Pete. I need you to admit that Joe Biden has what it takes to be president based on what he's done so far.
He has it, but he's a creature of the old Senate. If you look at if you weigh the different time periods on who was a Republican, who's a Democrat, who's an independent, and who may be signed up under one party label but acts like the other party, today Joe Biden would be considered a moderate Republican. Joe Manchin would be considered exactly what he is, a very conservative Republican, but not a right-wing extremist Republican. But both of them goes by the Democratic label. So you have to look at their background as they trend, as they got older, they got more empowered in the whole bit. And so, but Biden, one of the reasons why Biden can't pull it off now as much as he could, because he is making the same mistake that Obama made. You don't take nothing for granted. And if you see the actions of your opponent that just hell-bent on destroying you, then you know what, you do what by any means necessary, as Malcolm say, and get your thing over. And one of the things that made me feel somewhat negative about Obama, he was in a position, just like Trump was in, to get all the judges that he wanted. He was in that position for appellate judges and the whole thing. But if you look at his track record, he did not put African-American judges in a position to move up in appellate rights and all as he could have, especially when he had control over the Senate and the House. If he had took that same position that Trump took by any means necessary, we would have more African Americans up and down the federal judiciary. He did not do that. Now, what he did do, he appeased the strong white gay vote by putting in a lot of white gay judges, gay empathy judges. He did that were not Afro-American. Okay, that's part of the politics thing. But when you look at Joe and Barack, they both are weak in it, that they will not, what we say, kick ass and take names later. They just won't do it. So what's your thoughts on that?
Unmute. Clint, you're muted.
That happened. I'm sorry about that, Pete. Somehow I got muted. I'm just talking away, and I was wondering why is he saying that stuff.
Well,
why is he saying? Okay,
it's
so
true. It's true. You gotta look at.
No, it is. But no. Here's what I'm gonna say differently. Is Donald Trump is a rich white man who's used to going against popular opinion, being contrary, and just forcing his way forward and forcing people to come along with him. And if you don't, he destroys you. Mm-hmm. That's not Obama. So when Obama became president, he was not even remotely willing to force judges down the throats of his Democratic colleagues. They were more comfortable voting for gay and lesbian judges than they were putting more and more African-American judges. Let's not confuse ourselves, Pete. Democrats do not have this love and affinity for African-Americans no more than Republicans do. We're just beneficial, so you get enough. You get enough from them to keep you from going to the other side. but you don't really get all that you could possibly get in the meantime. That's why I think Obama's situation is a little different. Now, the reason I brought this up about Biden is coming into the office, one of the most significant arguments against him from the Republican side was he's too old, he didn't have the energy, he didn't have the mental capacity. And thus far, he's had a very successful trip internationally, reaffirming America's position in world affairs. Would you not agree?
Well, I disagree to an well, it depends. Here's the thing. That's expected from the European standpoint. But the key is, to me, as an African American conservative, I looked at the last two presidents, Obama and Trump, and now coming into Biden. The key to me is what position they're going to really take with regards to the continent, the mother continent of Africa. You see, we're losing to the Chinese in Africa, and everywhere, but we're losing to the Chinese in Africa, and of course nobody's saying anything. We can't assume anymore that Africans are going to support America like we think. In fact, to be honest with it, within a come to Jesus conversation within the people who are black and of color, a lot of Africans take the position that American blacks are soft when they should be strong on issues. And that's why you have a lot of Africans that are coming into the country that won't bother the Democratic Party at all, won't even bother the independent. They're going to register Republican, or they can be under that independent or Democratic label, but they're going to vote for Republicans with regards to monetary issues, business issues, stuff like that. So we're in trouble. And if anybody thought that Biden was going to really kick butt and take names, it's not going to happen. The voting rights bill is going to go down the tubes unless they come back with the John Lewis version of it. Police reform. Biden is a creature and you look when he started the Senate. Do anybody in their right mind think that he's still now holding some of those old, very conservative values with regards to the way the black community and the white community and the Hispanic community take shape, how you deal with those? Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. So
right, and I think those are the mindsets that allowed him to vote for the original crime bill that was passed under Bill Clinton because of those views. I don't disagree with that. I think at his age, I mean, it'd be surprising to see him change his view, worldview, and cultural view of the experience for a lot of minorities and what they're dealing with, what they're going through. There's no doubt, it appears, that his domestic agenda is stalled. But is that a reflection of what Republicans are doing, Pete, or is it a reflection of his inability? And you give me a quick answer if you could, because we've got to go to break in a minute.
It's stalled because he can't relate to everybody in that Senate group of Democratic Party. And speaking of the crime bill, we're probably going to have another version of it coming back because of all the violence, including in Austin, Texas, including in Savannah, Georgia overnight and all. So when we come back from break, man, we're in trouble. Trust but verify everybody.
Listen, you keep using these Reaganite quotes, throwing them out here.
Well, he was right about that.
No, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I am very much concerned about Joe Biden's domestic agenda. It looks like it's run aground. I'm not sure what's going. He needs something to happen though to spring it loose. I think the one is going to be the infrastructure. That's because that's about money. I think they're going to muscle that through on reconciliation, and then that might give them some traction to kind of open the door up for making some things that we need to have happen on the other agendas that are out there, like you mentioned, the voting rights and some of those other bills. But let's do this. I know that we've thrown a lot of information out there. I want to encourage everybody to, again, give us a chance on the call-in line if you want to make some comments. That number is 813-444-9588, 813-444-9588. Listen, we're going to take a break, but I promised Pete that he would get to talk about something that had just been itching him, because he texted me about it all this week. That is Val Demings is going to put Marco Rubio in his place. But Pete may have some other ideas. And listen, I'm trying to figure this out. Since when did the DOJ start taking up partisan investigation of Congress people? So let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about those issues and whatever else is on your mind. You're listening to In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. We will be right back.
The Sole Purpose.
I know you're going to dig this.
With Keith Harris and attorney Monica Harris is every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. What's your purpose? In Touch Radio.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Family, it's LA celebrity lock stylist Bray here. I am so excited to announce that I'll be returning to your city for a very special 2-day event at Tampa's very own My Shade and Texture at 4202 East Bush Boulevard. On Friday, June 11th at 7 p.m., join me for a free intimate conversation about lock hair care and maintenance. There will be light food, drinks, and prizes in store. And on Saturday, June 12th, stop at my pop-up shop and learn why customers love my vegan lock and twist cream, lock detox, and hydrating oil. To register for the event, please visit www.locksbyb.com. Again, that's www.locsbyb.com. Hope to see you there.
All right, we're back live on In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. Again, my name is Clinton Paris. I am a co-host here on Straight Up the Middle. I am joined here by none other than my co-host, Mr. Pete Edwards. Good morning again, Pete. How you feeling?
Okay, my brother.
You know, I would assume that you were just as bothered as I was by, again, that shooting in Austin. That's one. And just it seemed like this rampant violence that just seems like it's everywhere. Every time you look up, somebody's got a gun on the highway shooting in cars with road rage. We had a shooting here in the local area at a grocery store. Man goes in, shoots, I think, his wife and his child. We have this incident back in Miami week before, shootout outside some night, establishment. You had the 12 and the 14-year-old. They're in the shootout going on. I really just, I really don't know the why that seems to be so prevalent, or what the answer is, Pete.
Well, a lot of it has to do, for an example, in the city of Tampa, we had a juvie who had a gun visiting somebody, put it in between the sofa cushions, and a 4-year-old finds it and shoot a 3-year-old. See, if you practice the mentality of any and everything goes, if you practice the thing that it's hip to carry a gun, and when you're riding your bicycle, show it under your white T-shirt, all that kind of foolishness, and then you can go over to somebody else's house and just place a gun in between the cushion sofa when children are around, that's part of my thinking as a planned mentality of anything goes. You look at some of the shootings, yes, there's some mental health issues. You look at the shooting with the guy down at the public station, there was some mental health and some stress there. You look at the shooting at the graduation party in Miami where killed a black female correction officer just at a graduation party. We have to admit that it's an accepted fact that it's all right in our neighborhood to be macho, and some of them are females carrying the guns from and all, to shoot up in the neighborhood so you can get you some street cred. It is what it is, and it's not going to change until we take the attitude of, I remember when the Fruit of Islam used to really hang out in Tampa with their blue uniforms on and all. They had a position like some of them in D.C. and some of the big cities. You're not bringing that kind of stuff in our neighborhood. We're gonna deal with it. We're gonna make sure the police deal with it the whole bit. But we got this attitude now that if we want street cred, you shoot up everybody. You got personal beef, you shoot up. The other day, I was going through a parking lot where they had these two girls, and they say, "OG, you want to buy a gun?" I said, "What it look like me buying a gun from you minors?" They said, "Well, maybe you need a," and they had a cute little Derringer there, and they looked like they had a Ruger or something like that. But they were out there in plain daylight selling guns. Of course, they had some ladies' perfume, and they was boosters and all that other kind of stuff. But when you allow that over and over to continue in your neighborhood, and as I said before, in my work, and yours too, you've seen it, where you have families that continually, generation after generation, no matter how many lost souls go to prison and die in prison,
right?
try to have a
hit something
criminal
there.
enterprise. That's crazy.
Yeah, but you hit something there, and that is the idea that all things in a family are inherited and passed on. So within your family, you have whatever it may be. For somebody in that family to deviate into something else, it's a heavy lift. And so you have families where you have criminals. The next generation, they oftentimes become criminals. Families where you have people who are violent, they often become violent. They almost learn that culturally. But you kept saying we use various pronouns, and my thoughts are, who's the we though responsible for
everybody?
This?
For an example, when I look at the shooting that just occurred where the boy put the gun, first of all, he had no business with a gun. Then see, if I'm another 15-year-old and I know my boy on the blocks carry a gun, he's not coming in my house, not when I got my two little nephews or whatever the little kids was, and gonna raise up and put a gun in there, not without me checking them first. Hey, look, bro, this is my parents' house. This is my house. I'm babysitting. I got my nephews over here. Leave your piece outside. Put it in the flower bed or whatever you're gonna do. But you ain't coming up in here with that, because if the kid had died, the guilt and the weight of that would have been on everybody. And when you I listen to kids a lot all the time, and I tell people, especially adults over 50. You better learn how not to run from when you see teenagers eating and all. You sit your butt down there, you eat, make sure wax is out of your ears, and you look, listen, and learn. And if you do that, then you can see where they're coming from. And sometimes they pick up on the fact that you're listening more than looking, but also there's a measure of respect there. Because if the kids know that you're listening to all that garbage, and some of it is straight talk and more educated talk to help us older ones, they'll respect you, even though they have an idea you're gonna disagree with them. But the fact of the matter is that when we see a lot of teenagers and people under 25 come in and all that kind of stuff somewhere, or they talking a little yang or whatever the case may be, then we want to move away from that. Well, since when have we gotten so old that we can't be educated to make things better in our community? So you have to tune in, and if you tune in the right way, trust me, the kids, they'll send you a message or two why they're thinking the way they're thinking and all. But it's a fact in our community that people don't see violence as a big issue among the groups that are primarily doing the violence. It's just like the drug trade now. Since when sisters, all of a sudden, we're seeing sisters all over the place selling their bodies and passing out, taking the white person drug, fentanyl. Really? Now, if they were doing a little tooting with the snow powder and smoking their herb or something, okay. But now in our neighborhoods, we got sisters and brothers, but particularly young sisters, hustling, trying to get a hit off of that meth, crystal meth, and fentanyl.
Of course, it just came out and reported that was, I think, Shock G.
Yeah.
Died from an overdose of that, because you really don't know what you get. All right, Pete. So I'm gonna give you. I said I'm gonna get you back in the rhythm with some softballs. So let's go ahead and throw you another softball here. Let you beat up on this one. Val Demings has indicated she is going to run for the Senate against Marco Rubio in the state of Florida. Now, let me say this. The reason that's interesting is I'm expecting a number of other announcements in this fashion across the country. And the whole goal is to try to create in these midterms some level of defense that these candidates on the Republican side have to face. Now, you have some thoughts, and I would say this about her. I know that, Pete. We'll let you get to that. I like where she's coming from. She's coming from a law enforcement background. And this is why it's so important in very small communities, local communities. You talked about the judges being elevated, but we start to elevate people in the local community to significant positions so that they can rise from that to the next level. So what are your thoughts, Pete, about Val Demings' chance of beating Marco Rubio in his Senate re-election campaign?
Well, personally, I think Val should have run for election again. And in fact, that she decided not to do that, which is her right. After she loses to Marco, then I think Biden will appoint her somewhere, and then she'll make money as a commentator on CNN or Fox or whatever the case may be. Here's why she's going to lose. Look at it this way. In the black community, the fact that she was a police chief with all these issues going on with police harassment, the shootings, and the whole bit, she's not going to get a lot of black vote because she was a police chief. They're going to look at her record in Orlando where it was a lot of questionable incidents among police, even when she was the chief. So that's going to turn off a lot of black voters. The fact that
hold right there, Pete.
Okay,
hold right there.
I'm just saying.
Hold right there. Hold on right there, Pete, because I want you to get too far, because I think we have to. I'll get lost. She's already won with the black vote once, and that's how she gets to Congress right now. So what makes you think they wouldn't vote for her again?
Because when she won, remember, she won out of Orlando. She's got to run statewide now. So
right.
There are a lot of people who, any brother or sister who's associated with a strong law enforcement background, they're going to be reluctant to vote for them. That's the way it is. Number two, she won't be able to, a lot of, and I'm serious when I say this, a lot of white Democratic women voters who are conservative will be reluctant to vote for any black woman that appears to be beyond her qualified law enforcement credentials, but appeared to be a strong, highly educated, motivated black woman in the South. That ain't gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. White Democratic women voters who are conservative, they won't do that. Third thing, she won't be able to, here's the thing. She's not going to be able to tap into the Cuban American vote. Why? Because Marco has that tied up. Now, remember, I said the Cuban American vote, but I'm not talking about the black Cuban vote, because Rubio, from a political standpoint, he ignores it, and rightfully so from his political standpoint. Deming isn't going to even try to muscle in on the conservative Hispanic vote in Miami, and particularly the Cuban American vote in Miami. They don't see African Americans as a partner with them. A lot of people don't like it, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is in Havana, Cuba. And guess what? That's the way it is in South Miami. Then she's got to deal with an off-year election. Whether we like to admit it openly or not, we talk about it all the time behind the scenes. African Americans, historically, as a percentage of the voters, do not vote well during off-year elections. Now, you would think that they would rise up and vote for Val and the change of governor and all like that, but they don't do that. White people expect them, and even blacks who support ultra-conservative causes expect them not to vote. And guess what? They're going to make money because we're not going to vote like we should. particularly among young people. So,
All right. So you have tied a lot of what your expectations would be on the black vote. And just as I think it's unreliable to win with that vote, I think your basis on that is unreliable.
do you think she's gonna get the white rule vote in Florida? Really? You think
think
she's
you
gonna
would
get
take-
the Cuban
I think
American
you
vote?
you take the demographics of Orlando and you take a look at them. First of all, very small African American population in Orlando.
True.
You go up in Lake County and all that. You got some of those small towns where you got a bunch of folks, but the towns are small, so it makes it look like you got a bunch of people. But Orlando is really, it's a transplant community and a heavy labor service, Central Latin America and Puerto Rican community, not Cuban, but Latin. And she was able to garner significant support from that community. What I think this is about is hanging Donald Trump around Marco Rubio's neck. He can't separate himself from Donald Trump.
That's
He
why
does.
Rubio's gonna win. You think she's gonna go up in the
That's
villages and
assuming. Well, the campaign against Donald Trump is alive and well.
not in Florida?
Well, yes, it is. But think about it, because every week you get some new announcement of something he did that upsets people. And you've got the criminal charge piece that they keep talking about. And the more they talk about his administration, the things that they did that were lawless, as she called it, underhanded, or just not what we want to see American government do, I think it becomes harder and harder for people to say this is who who is in their corner, who's going to make them. I think that's going to be her strategy. I keep saying, listen, if Gillum had just done a few things a little different, that election was very, very close in the state of Florida. And I believe that the turnoff from it being a midterm is going to affect both sides. I do not think she's going to kowtow to an African-American electorate to get her into the office. I expect her to take a much more centrist. I think she's going to play up like she did in her announcement, the law enforcement piece. They didn't hold that against Kamala Harris in California. She got elected statewide. Also, just when we talk about local politics, ex-police officer Orlando Goons, he ran in a predominantly black community, and he won against a funeral operator that was very, very popular and liked. So I don't know that there's a turnoff from good law enforcement. We don't like bad law enforcement. And if she can avoid having bad, and I don't know offhand, I know people had some comments. If we could stay away from bad law enforcement issues related to her, which I'm not aware of, I don't think the blacks are not against the law. Criminals are against law enforcement. That's really where I land with that. So I don't think that's going to be I like the fact she was law enforcement, and I think that crosses her over. And I think she's going to pick up a lot of that white Republican and independent vote who don't want to be further associated with Donald Trump.
No, she won't. Here's the thing. Here's the key. First of all, even though the good job she did as sheriff, and her husband did the job before her, even as chief of police. Okay, here's the thing. She's not going to get the PBA, the Fraternal Order of Police, nor the Sheriff's Association. She's not going to get law enforcement endorsements. She's not going to do that. That ain't going to happen, even though she's has been a good law enforcement officer. The reason why she's black, and she's more identifiable black than Kamala Harris was identifiable black in California. So you got to take that equation out of the side.
Pete.
Okay?
Hold on,
saying.
Pete. Hold it, Pete. Hold it right there. Did I just hear you say because she's dark skinned, she can't get elected?
No, I'm saying because Val Deming is more closer in relationships and understanding of the black community than Kamala was out in California. It's going to hurt her with all the other voters. For an example, Lake City has a black female police chief, been up there about 8, 9, 10 years, okay? Val is going to have to go to Lake City in that area, all those small communities where Department of Corrections has a lot of prisons and all like that, to try to get some of those votes. Traditionally, Democrats that have run for governor have stayed away from there. Now she's going to have to go to the villages to try to get some votes, because whether we like it or not, those extreme right wingers that predominantly live in the villages, they vote. Then even though she's got law enforcement credentials, because Rubio and Trump's going to be tied up together, all Trump's going to do is say, hey, put Rubio, little Rubio, whatever we call him back in the day, put him back in. So she's not going to be able to get that vote. And once again, we keep dodging this thing that off-year elections, black people just don't like to vote. And until
now, let's stop. I won't let you. It's not just black people.
Well, I'm black, so I look at my folks and how we can get stronger first before I deal with trying to get a coalition.
Well, she's not running in a 99% African American district where you can just look at that electorate and kind of figure out what they do. Across the board, all typically you don't have a presidential election. The number of people they back off, they slow down. If I was her, I don't know if I waste my time going to the villages. I don't think I waste my time. I run some ads up there, but I'm not physically showing up. All that does is create a photo op for the people that live in that community. I wouldn't even waste my time going up there.
But she needs a coalition of voters. And she needs, and see, with her law enforcement background, by her going to the villages, she may convince some folks that, hey, I'm against defunding the police. I think we should redirect some of the budget money for the police. And her background would speak well for her to go there. But if she ignores places like the villages, in the Panhandle, Pensacola, the whole bit, stuff like that, and if she can't rally the black voters in Jacksonville and down the line, see, I would try to make a way to get involved with every black and Hispanic police chief in the state of Florida. Even go to Daytona. My God, Daytona now has a black mayor, and they have a black police chief.
Right.
So you go to reinforce your bona fide law enforcement credentials, because I'm telling you that when you look, we keep thinking that we don't need a coalition to help out black candidates. We do need the coalition to help out black candidates. When you look at the voting pattern, the votes that Byron Donald got in Fort Myers, and you look at he ran in a predominantly white congressional district, but he got a higher percentage of black voters also. So they gave him the benefit of the doubt, but he wasn't law enforcement. So you got to mix it up. And people keep saying that we don't need a coalition. And I'm saying, what part of the world y'all live in? We cannot do it alone, particularly in an off-year election. We cannot do it. So because my thing would be, I would try to get every rural white person I could. I would go up there where the prison is up there in Sumter County and say, hey, I believe in law enforcement. This is what we need to do. We need to put the shooters in jail and the other people to do some other programs for them, because I don't like violent crime. So I'm just saying, and by the way, I'm predicting already, Clint, that she will lose by at least, if you look at the trends now and all, she's going to lose by at least 6 points. And one of the worst points, about 6 points.
Listen, your comeback show, you're having a rough time this morning. First, you did what you did to the Soros, then 8 points.
6.
8 points. There's just no way I predict she's going to win. I'm going to tell you why. People are tired of Rubio. He barely, even ran last time. He's unmotivated. He doesn't want to be in Congress. He doesn't want to be in the Senate anymore. So he's not going to be willing to do the work. I think there's going to be a lot of national money. They're making Florida a bellwether state for the Senate race. And a bunch of money's coming in that's going to flood the airwaves and get her message out in such a way, just like they did up in Georgia with that Senate race. I think the money's going to come in. I think her law enforcement credentials, she's going to have enough sheriffs and chiefs of police to create a photo op to show that she's not weak on crime.
Not in Florida. If it was Georgia off year, yes, because black people believe in coming out consistently. on civil rights issues and voting issues. Man, you know what? It's too bad we can't have happy hour this morning. But I mean, remember what I said, drunk or sober, 6 points minimum. And Kamala Harris, I mean, the sister's all right. But, you know, you and I have been around politics and stuff for a long time. I'm telling you, she's aloof and snooty. And it's all right to say that about her sister. Maybe we can help. Maybe we can help balance her out. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like her politics.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong on her inability to connect, and that happens to a lot of people we know who go off on their career, and their experiences just transform their sensitivities somewhat differently. I got a feeling she's going to reflect on that trip. Talking about Kamala Harris and redo the whole thing. I think that I have had enough inquiries on the Democratic side that there are people working to build the structure to have a really, really strong ground game for her in local communities that are going to be very motivated because the Senate's going to be at stake and Joe's agenda will be on hand. And you'll see the normal influx of celebrities, types, and so on and so forth. And the only person that Rubio gets to bring out is going to be Trump. And by then, it's going to be interesting to see who will stand next to him. Pete, listen, I'm glad to have you back this morning. I'm going to take you up on a happy hour. We're going to go someplace and sit down and throw some back and see what else we can figure out. But I'm getting the message from studio that we've got to wrap this thing up. I want to thank you again, Pete, for jumping in. Love your flexibility. Man, these comments I'm getting from people, they clearly are on your side. But listen, at the end of the day, I really think that Val Demings has a great chance and that we are moving in the right direction. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for listening in. Thank you again, Pete. Thank you, Princess Anna, back in studio for all your hard work.
Yes, she is,
keeping the technology going. This is In-Touch News Radio, reality radio, where everybody could be a star. Catch us again next week, everybody, 10 a.m. Saturday morning. We'll see you then.